All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Hot Off the Press. And I've got the real cowboy man himself, Alex C Barr. And Alex is joining us all the way from the great, beautiful state of Wyoming. You are like probably the only SEO guy I know that lives in Wyoming.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, I don't know
Are you
anybody
the
else
only
doing
one?
SEO. I'm gonna claim it until somebody challenges me on it.
Man, brother, good to see you. I'm trying to think the
Thanks for
last
having me on.
time. I don't even when the last time we connected or the last time I saw you was I'm sure at a conference. I'm trying to think, maybe it was Rockstars, SEO Rockstars. You get to that?
Possible. Yeah.
Maybe last year in Vegas, I'm thinking.
Nope. As I was horse showing last year, I didn't make the Rockstars last year. It was probably spring training then.
Very good. Yeah, spring training, SEO spring training. You going to make it SEO spring training this year?
No, I think I'm going to be on a conference hiatus. Personally, there's an opportunity that I might be showing up to some conferences, but it'll be for other reasons, which I'll leave out there until it happens. So.
The man of mystery. All right. Well, because this is the first time you've been on the show, and I appreciate it. Why don't you give a little background? I know you're an SEO guy, and you're wearing the black hat, so I don't know if that's significant for you.
Inspired by Clint.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No. Everything I do these days is primarily above board and white hat. There's black hat influence in some of the ways that I think about stuff, but it's more in today's day and age, it's just easier to do stuff that is going to last, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've been in this industry for 2 decades now, which is crazy to say. I'm an old man. So, I got my start in internet marketing in 2006. And so I've built and sold 5 sizable agencies over that time period. And so I've just learned a lot and probably done everything wrong that you can do wrong in that time period. And so that's my boring background is just doing a ton of crazy stuff in order to learn everything the hard way. And there's just so many resources and communities and different stuff that we never had back in the day, right? And so that's why I lean towards everything. I don't know. I believe everybody about equally, right? As far as I can throw them, and I got a bum shoulder, so it is what it is. And so that's why I'm a big believer in R&D and testing, and which is really important on the black hat side. And so, and I came up on the black hat side, and over the years, have gone wider. I would say that I'm more gray hat because I'll still do stuff that's technically against terms of service, but I don't play in the illegal anymore. So there's that.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So, you've been around a long time doing SEO. Is there something, maybe one thing that you would share that 10 years ago or however long back you want to go, we used to do this stuff and it still works today?
Yeah. So I know that there's a resurgence in the directory world, and I've been through this previously. What I used to do is I used to jump into Chamber of Commerce. And because everybody has a local Chamber of Commerce, right?
Right.
And jump into your Chamber of Commerce and then say, hey, I'm a marketing guy. I just want to go ahead and support the Chamber of Commerce people, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and get access to the list, and I'm going to send them tips and tricks and news and whatever on whatever frequency you want to send out. And then go out and you build yourself a little directory for your area, right? And then you're able to go ahead and have the authority of the chamber list. They're used to seeing your stuff. So then, and then when you reach out, then you're able to be like, hey, you're the best of plumbing in, Denver or whatever it is,
Right, right.
then what I always did was I always put a badge. I created a little badge. They can throw it on their site. So then you
Yeah.
get a backlink to your stuff. And then now you've got this mini PBN that's super powerful.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
benefiting everybody else, but now you're also an authority in the community. And you got this mini local PBN, right? Which has a ton of relevance that you can point to whatever you need to from a relevance perspective. Um,
Mhm.
and then you can just power that up, right?
Yeah.
However need be. But the relevance factor is free basically. And so that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
super exciting part about
Yeah.
that. That worked freaking a decade and a half ago and still works
Yeah.
today. So
Still works today.
yeah.
Yeah. I like Leo. Amen.
Two ends of the spectrum. I love it.
You've got more hair on you that I can, above the shoulders than probably I've ever had in my entire life. Yeah.
Well, and this I'm still growing out because this is short in my world. I was boiling some skulls and burned like 3 inches of it off, and so I'm still trying to get back to a full beard. So it feels like a baby beard to me. I can't two hand it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Let me just clarify. What did you say? Boiling some skulls?
yeah, yeah. Get all the meat off. So we were doing
Got it.
Euro
All
mounts.
right. We don't do that stuff in my neighborhood, but
I
uh,
have probably a little more wildlife in my backyard than you do, though.
man, it's a fun time at the, Bar's house.
Good eating too. Amazing
Good eating.
steaks.
Oh my gosh. All right. So you have been doing, well, you've built agencies, you've sold agencies, and you're doing agency consulting now in the sense of helping others build and blow out their agencies. And I would imagine as well, kind of help and consult on transacting or selling agencies as well, right?
I work with a
Uh,
lot of PE, and so I've got a pool of PE that we basically offer them up to once we get them out of a position of key man risk, and we get them valuated and set up for the
yeah.
biggest multiple, and that's been really really beneficial. So
Yeah, yeah. Um, so a couple of things. Let's kind of explore this kind of thing because I know we get a lot of audience on here of agency guys, and at some point, I'm sure everybody wants to think, yeah, great. I just want to keep building this thing and sell it out. I'm sure Leor wants to. Leor is going to be on the show, by the way. The Black Panda is going to be on the
heck
show here
yeah,
in a few weeks. So,
he'll be an
um,
amazing guest.
yes, yes, and he's got that beard going as well, maybe not to the extent of
He's
yours,
like in
but,
the middle of the spectrum between you and I.
uh, well, he's still got quite a bit on me, but yeah. Um, but, these guys, they wanna build an agency and sell it, and it makes sense, right? You got the
Yeah.
equity and you wanna, like, very, pull this thing out. Um So let's first start kind of at the beginning. So if somebody is like going, I want to build an agency and really drive the greatest success. A question that I always kind of throw out, would you advise them to like niche down or be generalist?
So it doesn't. I'm I'm gonna go against everything that Josh Nelson says. So any 7FA guys out there, don't hate me, but it doesn't really matter at the beginning. Um, at the
Or
end
you
of the
don't
day,
think, really?
no, it doesn't matter at all, because the reality of it is the way that I teach at least is you need to go ahead and build your sales engine before you ever worry about fulfillment. So when you're first starting,
Mm,
I don't suggest that you deal with fulfillment at all. I suggest you go over like Kelly Gordon and White Label as an example, and just have somebody that actually does the research, actually knows what they're doing, and is really good at fulfillment, right? And so if you have somebody like her doing fulfillment and taking care of all the detailed stuff, then you can just focus on the front end and the sales. Because if you don't build that sales machine and you're not consistently bringing in leads and you're not consistently closing them and you don't have a repeatable process, that's the one thing that most agencies that struggle, they don't have, right? And then on the flip side of that, you got people where, that's the least of their issues is
Right.
sales, right? Because they got leads coming out of their, out of all sides. And then their problem is fulfillment, right?
Right.
And so if we were to start with a white label that actually knows what they're doing and gets results, then that solves that problem, right? And then that's no longer a bottleneck. And then once you
Mm.
get to a point where you have that solid and you're consistent, then at that point, then you can look at, okay, well, let's go ahead and bring it in-house. Let's go ahead and build out this team ourselves. Let's go ahead and, create some enterprise value
Yeah.
around the fulfillment and the customer success side and build a team, etc.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that's usually the route that I recommend. And I know it's pretty controversial, but the reality of it is that it will set you up for success because people end up doing this bouncing thing, right? Where they sell somebody and then try to go fulfill. And then they hire somebody and now they're not used to training and they don't have SOPs in place and they don't have like all that kind of stuff, and then they bounce back to selling, and it's just like this constant ping pong battle. And a lot of agencies, even at the 7-figure agency level, are still in just a more rapid ping pong situation, right? And I'm a big believer in quality of life over everything, and so being able to have everything systematized and
Mm.
just less stress, honestly, is what I go for. And so, okay, what's the most efficient way to do it with the least stress,
Mm.
so that you're setting yourself up for success?
Yeah. I love that, actually. I kind of think, actually, I really do agree with you on that, the issue about building the sales engine because, man, if you don't have the money coming in, to
Right.
be sustainable and, you just aren't you're not an agency, you're just, really living hand to mouth, maybe,
Well, there's a
and
lot of
struggling.
people that turn into an agency that are really just, still running it like a freelancer, right? And so
Mhm.
clearly defining the difference between freelancer
Yeah.
and agency is something that a lot of people on the beginning side of stages, like let's say you have under 20 clients, then realistically that's when you need to establish, hey, I'm no longer going to run this like a freelancer. I'm going to run it like an agency. On a proper agency, regardless of whether you do sell or not, is a business that can be sold. And so if you look
Mm.
at it from an investor's point of view, right? Okay, well, if an investor is going to buy your business tomorrow, what would that investor actually be buying, right? Are they able to go ahead and buy that without you, right? Are they able to replace you with, a CMO or a CEO or
Right.
whatever your position is, right?
Right.
Um, so when you start looking at it through a different lens, then it changes the way that you operate.
So in your mind, do you then think, all right, build the sales engine? I know a lot of people have got different kind of terms, build that sales, the flywheel, the sales engine,
Yeah,
drive
whatever
the
you want to call it.
yeah. Um, and then you gradually then kind of pick off or services to do in-house. You build your SOP, you do your training, and so maybe you're a full service and you're doing web development and full SEO, and you're doing local SEO and GBP ranking. Do you go like, okay, we're gonna start building their SOP around local SEO and GBP management, and then pull that in-house with the staff, a little bit at a time, or how do you make that transition so you're still not ping-ponging, but you're gradually building that full service agency that's humming?
So the full service thing is an interesting concept because most of the full service agencies that I've consulted over the last 5 years in doing this, and just that I know personally, the reality of it is there's usually a service or two that are bringing in a majority of their clientele, right? And not always is the service that brings them in the most profitable service, right? And so that's where they feel like they basically have golden handcuffs and they're like, okay, I'm not able to go down to a single service. And so
Mm.
then they've got all this overhead and all these departments with all these services, right? And the one thing that I see amongst most of the, I'm not going to say all, but most of everybody that's in full service is they just have really low margins. So my world, 60% is like a minimum on margin, right? And that's what I always try to get everybody above that 60% margin. And a full service, like if you can like reach up and get 40% margin, you're like crushing the game, right? And so just because there's so much operational drag when you're full service, that's really, really hard. And so what I found is in order to maximize for efficiency, less stress, and the most amount of profit, most full service agencies are full service because they didn't have a plan around it. They're just like, oh, you need this? We'll add that to the list. Oh, you need this? We'll add that to the list. And next thing you know, they're doing all these different things and everything's custom all the time, and it's a nightmare. And so what I usually suggest is like let's go back to the books, let's do some math and figure out, okay, what is your most profitable service that you're offering? And if we were to go ahead and take all the time and effort, right, on everything, I'm not saying that you can't be full service, but what I'm saying is in order to go ahead and reach the most profitable and the quickest amount of time to be the most stable is really what you're going after, right? Let's start with a single service, right? And really focus on building that sales engine for that service and then continue forward. And then if you decide to go ahead and scale horizontally and add services later, you now have a framework where you can add that sales engine, you can add that fulfillment, and you can do it, you know, over the next however many years, whatever. But you got to do one first. And so I'm not against full service being a thing. I'm just typically full service is like freelancer on steroids. Like it's usually very chaotic and terrible, operationally speaking. So
and it's hard to kind of scale kind of that as well, right? Because of the kind of managed chaos, so to speak, right?
Not the problem. Usually lead gen on full service, think about it, you offer everything. You're going to say yes to fucking everybody that comes through your door, essentially, right? Like you don't have unless you have a demand issue and you have a lead gen issue, which most full service agencies don't, right? It's usually always on a fulfillment side that they have issues. Well, that's most SEO agencies too, is fulfillment, right? But the reality of a full service agency having issues and bottlenecks that they want to overcome, because they've essentially put themselves in a box, right? And they back themselves into a corner and they're like, look, I got all these things that I promised and now I have to deliver on all this stuff. But in order to deliver on this stuff, because my margin's so low, in order to pay everybody, I need to bring on more, but that adds more work to the table. And then now it's just constant issue. The biggest thing that I can recommend for everybody across the board that almost works every time is just raise prices. Because as an industry as a whole, the internet marketing industry just does not charge enough, period, in a story. And so when it comes to charging, that's the fastest way. Like I had a lady that I was consulting, and my biggest thing to her was like, look, just add a zero to your pricing, literally. Like don't double it, add a zero. And that made a world of difference for her, and she was like the scaredest ever to be able to do that. And she did it, and as a test, just to prove me wrong, she's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do it. And then they said yes, and she's like, what the fuck? And I'm just like, I'm telling you, because it also depends upon who you're serving, right? Like there are limits in different niches, but like majority of the time, what you're offering is so much more valuable than you're giving it credit to, right? Like, well, if you're going to bring somebody on, you're going to add $1 million to their annual, bottom line, or their top line revenue. That's a massive bump. Why are you only charging $2,000 a month? Right? It's like, okay, well, it's not proportionate to the amount of value that you're bringing in. And so a lot of people don't take that into consideration. And like I've gone down, there's a lot of different money models in regards to like how you can do this stuff, right? So you have the retainer based stuff, you've got, one-time services, you've got, your rev shares and your profit shares, and you've got, growth partner stuff. And so there's a lot of ways to do it. But at the end of the day, the model can kind of, regardless of what model you're using from monetization strategy, you still got to have a framework that you can build stuff off of.
Right.
And so that's
right.
where I help out.
Yeah. I want to talk about this issue around the money a little bit, because I do think that it obviously it is critical for an agency. Would you say that that's probably is the most common problem or issue you see when you initially start talking with agencies you're helping, is that they're just not charging enough?
So usually most agencies across the board, fulfillment's the issue, right? And so they've gotten themselves into a fulfillment, corner, if you will. And so now they're stuck because they're afraid to bring on more revenue, because then
Mm,
they have to fulfill on that revenue. So that's usually, like, I'd say like 80+% of people. And a portion of that is they're able to go ahead and say yes to so many clients because they're not charging enough. Right.
mm,
So if you're able to close, over 70-80% of everybody that walks through your door, you're just not charging enough. That's like a big sign. Right.
yeah.
And so, hey, Blair, um, so if your close rate is that high, then it means you're not charging enough right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So I would raise
Yeah.
prices based on that. But when it comes to agencies in general, the biggest thing that I see is not necessarily that like price is their issue. It's just that they don't protect themselves. They're not qualifying things, right?
Mm,
And so, because at the end of the day, we all have like these actual realistic limits. Like everybody's
mm.
like, oh well, I can serve a million clients, and it's like, okay, well, if you sign a million clients tomorrow, how are you going to freaking fulfill on that? Like, what are you like? Everybody thinks that more money or more clients or more whatever is going to solve their problem, but the reality of it, success is probably, and I can speak to this from experience, success is the biggest killer of businesses, not the biggest, beneficial thing. So if you have too much success, you're actually going to put yourself out of business. And so
Yeah.
figure out what your hard limits are, right? And be like, okay, well, with the existing team that I have, or the existing white label or whatever else, like I have these actual limits. What kind of clientele do I want to define my business? Do I want to
Yeah.
work with?
Yeah.
What would be the most beneficial from an investor's perspective to work with long term, right? Provide the most enterprise value, et cetera, long term growth, whatever you're going after, right? From that perspective, okay, I can fulfill, 18 clients, whatever, in the current situation. Out of those 18 clients, I have a limited number of spots. Now you start
Right.
looking at it through a different lens, and you're like, okay, I have 18 spots. Am I just going to let the first 18 people that raise their hand get into those spots, or do I want like the 18 most badass quality clients that are going to have the
Right.
longest
Right.
LTV, that are never going to fucking churn, that I'm going to make the most money for, that is going to help me accelerate this business the most? All of a sudden, that is a completely different agency than somebody
Right.
that's just taking anybody with a heartbeat.
Grabbing anybody that comes through
Right.
the door. Yeah.
Right. And so then you protect yourself a lot more. You're able to qualify a
Yeah.
lot more. You're able to do a lot of different things. So from a money perspective, that is probably the biggest change that's going to
Mm,
affect most agencies, is just like qualifying
mm,
who the hell you're working with.
mhm.
Because that solves most of the issues down the line with fulfillment,
Yeah.
with customer success, with churn, with all the other things. Is just making sure that you have good clients on the front.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Leo is great here. He's giving you just a fabulous recommendation here, right?
That's awesome.
The
Thanks,
man.
Leor.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Um, uh, do you think that there's ever a time then when you fire a client?
Oh, 100%. Biggest client I ever fired was $80,000 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You got some serious balls to walk away from that, right?
Well,
Wow.
here's the thing. Everybody always freaks out and they're like, "Oh, your balls must be the size of, whatever, Texas." The reality of it is it's not scary if you have the lead flow to back it up, right? And so it's like, look, the only time you're ever scared to lose a client or to fire a client that isn't a good fit or whatever else is when you aren't confident in being able to replace that client or replace that revenue, right? And so there's a point in your agency where like it's no longer a factor of revenue, it's about efficiency and like operational scale and like drag and all that other stuff. But regardless, when you have somebody that's like a bad egg, right, or bad apple or whatever, and it's causing a bunch of strife and issues, or it's, it's just not a good fit, then at that point, being able to go ahead and have the freedom, you know, to let them go, and go elsewhere is really going to, you look at it as being best for the agency long term, right? And so it's not really a big money factor if you have that lead flow coming in. You're like, oh, we can confidently replace this in the next X period of time, or we already have enough lead flow in the pipeline. This is actually freeing me up to say yes to more other opportunities, whatever. All of a sudden, it's no longer a scary thing, and like that number is no longer really a big factor, right? And so that's where, again, that sales side, that sales engine is so important, because that's what allows you to get out of that position.
Victor brings a good point. I think you kind of amplifying on what you were talking as well, right? You got to pick who you want to work with,
right? 100%.
Yeah,
because you can go to Google Maps and you can scrape everybody, and you can just like start pitching your stuff. But I actually kind of give away my acquisition strategy inside of my book. I call it the locust method. And so for anybody that wants, a very inexpensive way to go ahead and do it, manually, and then you can also scale it up and do it at scale. That method alone allows for you to go ahead and not only choose who you're working with, but also provide them a ton of value and be omnipresent when doing it.
Yeah. Wow. Let me ask you this. You mentioned about margin, and you kind of have these, target, I'll say, from a margin standpoint. So if you're kind of outsourcing your fulfillment as an agency, I want to be sure I'm grasping this correctly. You are saying, in that scenario, you should be focusing on a 60% operating margin, right? At that point then, or maintain margin, depending upon how you want to frame it in your P&L, but that yours 40% of your revenue is going out in that white label or fulfillment side. Is that correct?
No. Less is actually going to the white label, because you have to think about it. If your entire net profit is 60%, all of your everything else is inside of that 40%. Not just
that's why I was wondering if you were saying kind of your maintain margin or your net full net
full net. Yeah, full net is 60. That's the goal, right? As a minimum, because if you hit that number, which I've literally had individuals tell me that that's impossible, that's not going to happen. And I'm like, I can throw a stone and like hit a dozen people that are at that. So it's a limiting belief for a lot of people. The reality of it is, when you build that way, you have to be efficient. You have to scale in a certain manner in order to hit those numbers, right? And you have to charge a number that a lot of people are not comfortable charging in order to hit that number. And so if you're at 12% margin or 20% margin or 38% margin or whatever it is, right, then the reality of it is you are limited from an acquisition perspective based on your cash flow. You're limited based on your operating ability to go ahead and hire and scale. You're limited on all these things. Tyler says, I don't think it's a success issue. I think it's a scale issue. Yeah, I mean, if you're happy making 20% and you're just gonna essentially buy yourself a job, go for it. But if you want to scale and you want to be successful and you want to put yourself in a position where you're an owner and not an operator, then at that point, that's when these things come into play. So I'm not against people having lifetime jobs, and there's a lot of SEOs that just want to do SEO and happen to have an agency that's doing it, and that's fine. And everybody has their own opinion on things. I'm not saying that my way is the only way. I'm just saying that, like, if you want to change the way that you're doing things, then I mean, I've been doing this so damn long. I've seen a lot of things, and so learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, wow. All right, hey, we are down here. We're at the 30, the halfway point. We're going to do our fun little thing that I've just started kicking this in called the rapid fire questions. I need to beef this out, get a little sound effects,
There
rapid
you go.
fire, right? Boom, make it like something. All right, so here we are, Alex. So I'm going to throw out a handful of questions to you. You're just going to like boom, 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 right?
I love
Don't
it.
even, don't even, limited thinking, I should say. I shouldn't say don't think about it, but limited thinking. All right, you ready?
Ready.
All right. Coffee, tea, or bourbon? And how do you take it?
Black coffee.
All right, there we go. What's a book that you recommend to everyone?
Failing Forward by John C. Maxwell.
Nice. That is a great book. Morning person or night owl?
Either. It depends upon when I get to bed.
So you're just, yeah, whatever. I would think maybe out in the Wyoming, man, you'd be like a morning guy, but yeah, all right, all right.
My wife is always a morning person, and so I
Yeah,
tend to be the night owl, but I can be a morning person too. It just depends. I
all
just
right,
as long as I get my 7.5 hours, I'm good.
all right, all right. If you could work from anywhere in the world for a month, where would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Anywhere in the world. Um, I don't know. As long as they got good Wi-Fi and good food, I'm there.
You're there.
I'm not that picky. My wife is the travel planner, so she as long as it passes her her decision,
Nice,
I just
nice.
good food and good Wi-Fi are my two criteria here. I'm a real picky dude. What can I say?
There you go. All right. Alex Barr walks into the room. What's the theme song that's playing?
Ooh, the theme song. Uh, man, I'm so bad with songs. Um, no, see, there you go. Thailand's a good option. Good food and
Yeah,
good Wi-Fi. I love it,
yeah.
Lior. Theme song. Man, uh, you got me on theme song. I'm not a big everything I listen to is like instrumental. So that's not super exciting or metal.
Here, Victor's helping you out here. How about this one?
Into
Into
the
the jungle.
Thanks, Victor. There you go.
All right, here's a bonus question. If you had to give a TED Talk tomorrow with zero prep, what topic are you choosing?
Ooh. A TED Talk specifically. Um ooh, that'd be a good one. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of TED Talks on like liquidity events. I think
Okay,
doing something on a liquidity event would be really, really cool.
nice. Very good. See, that was fun. That was good.
Heck yeah, that was
You
great.
got some help from the audience as well.
Yeah,
I
I had to
like
phone
this
a
song.
friend. Thank you.
This song right here, Tennessee Whiskey. This is like
Oh,
when
see,
you
that's what I
look
should
at
have said.
you,
There you
that
go.
is like absolutely
There you go.
boom. Yes.
So, fun story, side quest here. We were in Vegas for a buddy of mine's son, his birthday, and so his son and my wife go out into the crowd and shout, "Oh my God, Chris Stapleton!" And so I took photos with probably, I don't know, 20 or 40 different drunk females that evening, and I actually was trending on Twitter for like almost 12 hours as Chris Stapleton. It was the greatest thing in the world. So, yeah.
I could see it, man. I could absolutely, because you're a big guy. You're kind of, yeah, I could see the whole thing going for you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
it
Plus,
was very
obviously,
entertaining.
you got the whole look going on. Does
Well,
Chris
and
Stapleton have the, I don't know what you call the
oh yeah.
things. Does he have those as
No,
well?
I don't think he does. So that one kind of gives it away, but
Yeah.
uh, late at night on Fremont Street, I don't think anybody was worrying about details.
Oh man, so good. All right. You've got such great insight on the agency side. How about this? How about some advice from your perspective. So we kind of started about, if you're starting an agency and how you begin to focus and how you begin to build. How about, for those guys, maybe Leor maybe is in this middle of the road. He's ready, thinking about, he's built himself up that 7-figure agency. He's ready to like, okay, I want to start building the path to exit. What's the advice that you begin to give folks? Like, when do they start thinking about that exit path? And then what are some of the steps and things that you see, like, here's what you need to do to start getting yourself ready?
So there's two parts to that. So the first part
Yeah.
is I think you should start with the exit in mind, right?
Mm.
Built to Sell is a very popular book as an
Yep.
example
Yep.
that helps you understand like, okay, well, operationally, I'm going to go ahead and look at this through a different lens as I get going. So
Yeah.
from the beginning, I think looking at exit is important. So you're never too late to start looking at building for an exit. And enterprise value and like the multiple that you're going to get really are going to be the thing that determine a majority of how you're doing things, right? And so if you look at everything through that lens, again, if you have an investor that is going to buy your business, what are they buying, right?
Mm.
And then that leads you perfectly into the second portion of that, which is like, hey, how do you start moving towards that? Okay, well, the bus question is the one that I always default back to. Okay, well, if you get hit by a bus, what happens? If your lead SEO gets hit by a bus, what happens? If your lead CSX person, if your CMO, if your whoever gets hit by a bus, what happens? If you're all on a bus, right? And it goes over a cliff. What
whole
happens?
thing's gone.
Right. And so if you now have a bunch of scenarios that you can go ahead and play out and figure out, okay, well, what things am I missing in order to be successful in that worst case
Right.
scenario?
Right.
Right. And how do I build where, okay, an entire new team can come in here and operate at the same or above level of what I'm doing currently? And a lot of that comes down to just enterprise value and IP, right? And so a lot of agencies don't really have a lot of enterprise value because they haven't built for it, and any IP that they have in their head and it's not documented. And so a lot of
Can you expand on the term when you're throwing there enterprise value? Can you define that? What does that actually look like?
So enterprise value is just something that's going to increase the perceived value of your business, right? And so if you have a PBN as an example, right? That PBN is enterprise value because that is an asset that
Okay.
no other business has, right?
Okay.
And the IP is how you built that PBN, in what way, what did you use, all the details around it. So those kind of go hand in hand. And that enterprise value, okay, with a business that is just buying legit gigs versus a business that has their own PBN internally, which one has more enterprise value, right? Which one has more assets from an investor's perspective that you own? Right. And so that PBN is then going to give you more enterprise value and therefore increase the amount of perceived value that your agency as a whole has, because that's what they're buying, are those assets, right? Or that system or that whatever it is.
Right. Right. Got it. Got it. Financial house in order, is that probably one of the things as well? You
That's
gotta
that's always a thing, and that's one of the things that a lot of people, they pierce the corporate veil, if you will. Well, a lot of them treat their agency as an ATM, right? And so being able to go ahead and make sure that you're either on a salary or doing an owner's draw, or like, and that you're set up in a tax friendly way. Corporate structure is something that I've learned a lot of pitfalls over the years with, and I'm in no way a lawyer, and this isn't legal advice, but being able to go ahead and protect yourself from a business entity perspective is really important. And so how you build and structure those things affects a lot of stuff, not only in regards to how much tax you're paying, but in how you can sell and what assets you can sell in what ways and all that kind of stuff as well. So there's a lot of devil in the details when it comes to that specifically.
Yeah. I think some of the stuff, those are the conversations that I almost would have with folks when they're initially starting out. And to your point, and I love that book as well, kind of Build to Sell, is really in thinking about the structure of the entity itself, get out of the like not structured, not an LLC of some sort. You really got to nail that thing.
Well, and honestly, most people shouldn't be in an LLC anyways, because if you're doing over 60K annual, which almost everybody should be, right?
Yeah.
Then like an LLC doesn't make sense. So then you go into an S corp, right? And then it's like,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
like,
Yeah.
being able
Don't
to
do it. That's
know at
yeah.
what steps to move into what things is like really important.
Yeah, that's what we did several years ago. Is that I initially started as an LLC, and then maybe about, I don't know, 18 months or so, we transitioned to a S corp, and that really felt much better. And I made the mistake. I should have just started as an S corp to begin with. 12 years ago. Yeah.
You just donated a little more money to Uncle Sam,
I know. What the heck?
details.
Yeah. All fun.
But like a lot of people don't know about holdcos, they don't know about trusts, they don't know about all the
Yes.
benefits of different
Yes.
like entity structures. And so like with AI, like do your research. Like you can learn a lot about this pretty quickly with a little chat.
Yeah. All right. So you threw out the magic. Actually, before I even hit into AI stuff, you also hit a term that I love, limiting beliefs.
Right.
And you're just a great, interesting guy. And I bet I'd love to sit around the campfire with you and have a little bourbon and just talk a little philosophy, I think. Limiting beliefs. Give me your thoughts and insights on that, because I bet you're deep, brother. I know you got it.
I would say limiting beliefs are probably the number one thing that is holding back most agency owners. Because like there's a lot of things that go into limiting beliefs, as you know. Like there's a lot of things from childhood perspective, from environmental experiences,
Yeah.
whatever. But at the end of the day, like you're the captain of your own ship. And so how do you want the ship to run? Like you're in control, right? And so your environment is based off of the decisions that you're making and the beliefs that you hold. And so if you're
Yeah.
not happy with the environment that you're in, then you need to change, the beliefs and the actions that you're taking. And if you're limited in some way in your existing experience, then that usually falls back to some sort of belief that you hold or some sort of limit that you've put on yourself. And so
Yeah.
being able to evaluate what those things are and then go ahead and make an active decision to go ahead and change that is probably going to be one of the biggest things that are going to
Yeah.
go ahead and allow you're essentially giving yourself permission to make more, do more, have more, whatever the
Right.
case might be.
Yeah. It's so in my mind, it's almost painful to see, folks, and they can do so much more, but they're restricted by their limiting beliefs, right? It's like I've had so many friends, and I know people that have like, oh my gosh, you are so talented, so capable, but yet something, internal that they just don't, that restricts them from hitting their full potential, I think. And I'm like,
Well,
man,
there's a lot of stories with like the
yeah,
elephant or the flea, right? You put
yeah,
a flea
yeah,
on a string or an elephant on a rope when they're small, and then they grow up with that limiting belief that, oh well, I'm tied down to this thing, even though you got a full size elephant that could easily break this tiny little
right,
string that's on their ankle. Well, they mentally are bound to that, right? Or a flea that can't jump high enough
right,
because
right.
they're limited to that length of that string. Same concept. We do that to ourselves,
I know,
right?
yeah,
And it's not only just an income thing, but it's like a team thing, it's a leadership thing, it's an
yeah,
operational thing.
everything,
There's so
relationships,
many,
yeah,
all involved. And so
all aspects
if
of life.
if you kind of zoom out and look at it from an investor's perspective, all of a sudden you're not taking into account all of your limiting beliefs,
Yeah,
right? And that's what's been freeing for me is when you look at it from that perspective, all of a sudden you're no longer a factor. And then you
mm,
can be like, okay, well, without my limiting beliefs, what are things that would be beneficial? And then you can go ahead and zoom in and be like, oh, well, the investor really likes this. but I don't think we can get there. The problem is me. I'm the bottleneck, not the business.
Yeah. Amen to that. Amen. I love Tyler's comment on our thread we were talking about just a bit, right? He did that. And then he says, like, boom, you better believe I was S Corp the next year.
Nice, Tyler. Yeah.
Right on. All right. So you hit on the topic AI. My gosh, what a crazy world we're living in today, and especially in our business. So AI, how are you using AI and or AI automation in your kind of world and agency world and things?
So everybody's either on two fences, right? They're scared of AI or they want to do AI everything. And I think there's a middle ground with AI. So I look at it as a calculator, right? I'm old. So back in my day, when I was a kid, everybody's like, you're never going to have a calculator in your pocket at all times, right? You got to learn how to do math in your head, and it's important and whatever. But the reality of it is that calculator just sped up your ability to do math faster, right? And so I look at AI the same. It's just a tool, in which case you can go ahead and speed up what you're able to do. And so the current market, as I see it at least, is it's whoever's being able to go ahead and move the fastest towards some sort of feedback loop, right? So the faster that you can get feedback, the faster that you can go ahead and build for feedback, that's who's going to succeed in this world. And AI is allowing for that speed to go ahead and happen. Because if you've got one agency that's not using it, one agency that is using it, right? The agency that's going to use it typically is going to go ahead and get there faster. And less expensively, with more speed, etc. I know the whole concept of humans being obsolete once we hit AGI is a whole other concept, and so people are afraid of, like, okay, why would I build out this big team when I can just have agents? And for the time being, I think there's a middle ground, in which case you're able to go ahead, just like any other tool, to speed it up. If you're going to go out there and instead of using a scraper, you're going to manually collect stuff and put stuff in a sheet. Well, that scraper is going to speed up your process. If you have a team member that's using that scraper, now that team member is that much more beneficial, right? And can produce that much more on a daily basis. And so even if your team members are just managing agents, right? Like, I can see a world where you have agents managing agents in the near future. But that still doesn't mean that from a strategy and an operational overhead perspective that having team members is bad. So I wouldn't worry about, like, some far off distant future when it comes to, affecting what you're doing today. Just use it as a tool to speed up your process and to get to feedback faster. It would be my recommendation.
All right. Are you have you implemented some agents and automations in your processes as well? Yeah.
We use AI and we use agents in everything that we do. So
nice. AGI, that is a term that, and I think that it does, put a little bit of fear in people. And I don't know. And I think you're interested in, you're either afraid of it or you're like, yeah, fully embraced and on board. Let's go. When you start kicking out that term AGI, I think people get a little more like, I don't know what the hell's going to happen, or are people going to be removed out of the loop kind of. I had an interesting conversation. My daughter's a senior in high school, and we were out doing a college visit yesterday, over the weekend and through yesterday. We were meeting with a professor, and I asked them in regards to their thoughts around AI. And the professor stated was that, I think anything that's kind of in a important human to human interaction that you have right now. And this, is a law professor. And, like if you're accused of a serious crime, you're going to want a human sitting next to you, giving you guidance, right? And maybe they might be using AI to help, but you want that assurance as a human, and I don't think that will ever go away. And
I think
I
there's going to
like
be a spectrum. I think
yeah.
there's going to be a spectrum. So, like in that example, as an example, I think somebody that maybe can't afford the best lawyer, right, might end up hiring an AI lawyer, right?
Mm,
And but I think the value of that human element is actually going to increase, right?
mm,
Because now that human's going to have all the benefits of the AI as well as their insight and experience and angles and whatever else. Um, so I think it's going to actually elevate the human, right? So now the
mhm,
human,
mhm.
you know, or attorney or lawyer or whatever in that case is actually going to be the premium option.
Yeah.
um and so that's kind of the way that I look at things. I was just talking to an ornamental fence manufacturer the other day, and their whole thing is they're really worried about AI and everything else and how it's going to affect things and whatnot. And I was like, look, at the end of the day, the more AI takes over a lot of different stuff, the more people are going to specifically be wanting to do more stuff with their hands, right? And they're going to have more time and freedom on their, on their plate in order to do that. And so, being able to be in a space where AI, at least until Elon figures out humanoid robots, can't really, jump in, is going to be kind of their superpower over the long term, over
Mhm,
say the next 5 to 10 years. And so, for them, I would say, hey, utilize AI to your benefit. Don't be afraid
mm,
of it. And
mhm.
that was the conversation that we had. And once they had that perspective, the way that they turned around and changed from an operations perspective was
Yeah,
dramatic.
yeah,
So
yeah. Interesting. Victor says, "Yeah, fence marketing is underrated."
yes, sir.
Love it. Um, how about the whole, I I always now I'm not even sure what the hell they're even calling. I think it's Claude right? Is that what it is now?
I think it's
The,
open right now.
Open Claude. There we
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
It was
Then
Molebot
I
for a
just
while. There's
yeah, and
well,
then
and
I
he
just
he
heard
just he just got on with OpenAI, right? So
well, that I didn't even know that until this morning. I kind of was
yeah.
like off of the airways for the past few days while I was with my daughter, and then
A
you
lot
know,
happens in a 24
I
hour
was like,
period,
no
man.
kidding. I
It's a
was got
fast
on the
world.
Facebook to see, and I just saw some post. I'm like, what the hell? What happened? Yeah.
Came
So
and went.
wow. So OpenClaw. Are you utilizing that? Have you tapped into that?
In very like I haven't implemented it into anything major. We're using it strictly as edge cases just because it's not proven yet, and like there's no
Seems a little risky, a little bit on
it's
from a
well it's a
security
giant
standpoint.
security it's a giant security
Yeah.
risk, first off. And second off is it's one of those things where you're kind of giving it free reign on a lot of things. And
Yeah.
is that something that you want to like base everything off of? I had a post on my personal profile specifically about it, saying like, hey, utilizing it in a specific way is smart, if you want to go that direction. But just thinking that you can go ahead and run your whole agency and just let the bot do whatever with no guidance or strategy or structure behind it is really scary. A lot
Yeah.
of people are like, oh, this is my, because especially in our industry, everybody's looking always for this magic bullet or
I
whatever.
know.
And so that silver bullet is what a lot of people are promising with this open claw situation. And so just be careful of it, because
Yeah.
it's honestly not. And if you want something that is more of a silver bullet, I mean, you're going to move the needle the fastest with the least effort. PR is the way to go.
Yeah.
And everybody knows who the best PR person is in the game, right? So there
Love
you go,
it,
Randy.
man. Thanks for roping that into the conversation. All right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have not done anything with the open claw. One, because I don't have a Mac. I'm not a Mac user, and I completely get lost in it. And I, I'm like, I don't. It seems more like a little bit more of a toy at this moment than something that I would actually want to apply a whole lot of time to make it productive, to to do some things for me, only because of the risk issue. Whereas I think
it's
some
still
of the other
new
things,
too.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the other, like Victor says, hey, I trust, Claude Code. And I think some, like, I love Claude, I love Anthropic, and the stuff that you can do with that. And I tend to kind of go that route myself.
I would say so. Cloud Code is way different than
Well,
OpenClaw.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So like that's like apples to oranges from that perspective. No, you're not crazy, Victor. I mean, I know people that have trusted their credit card to OpenClaw. Some have had good experiences and some haven't, right? So, take that with a grain of salt. But the reality of it is regardless of what tool you're using, how you're using that tool, and the framework in which case
Mm,
you're implementing that tool, I think is probably still the most important. And that's where I'm putting all my eggs in that basket is like, hey, let's go ahead and build the framework. And then now it's just a matter of, okay, well, does it do the function that we need in order to
yeah,
do it in, a fast enough time period? And does it do it to the quality standard that we require? And if let's say you have an OpenClaw engineer that, has trained it up and puts, really hard, boundaries on it, and it's able to go ahead and do what you need to do, great. At the end of the day, it's a tool. And so it's just
mm,
utilizing those in really smart, controlled situations that are going to be, what move you ahead in comparison to the competition.
yeah, 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 yeah. Good advice. Good advice. All right, what's going on around the corner for you? What's on the horizon? What kind of fun stuff are you kind of stepping into these days?
Well, I mean, horse show season's on the horizon here, so we're gonna have all of our horse show. So my wife is a horse trainer and judge, and so
Okay,
typically the summer we run around doing horse shows, and so I'm her personal scribe, and so I'm certified in jotting down numbers at a horse show, and so that's
nice.
usually what our summer looks like. So the spring there's usually a couple of shows, and then we really get our plans booked out. And then we went real late last year, so we went all the way through the fall
Wow.
with horse shows. So that's what's going to be, that's the next season of the year is horse show season, which is coming up. But from a business perspective, we're currently going through acquisition with one of my consulting clients.
Right.
There's some cool stuff that's coming to the SEO agency framework group that I've been delayed on getting out. I'm working closely with um, software, doing some advising and whatnot, and we're rolling out really big update in the local SEO space, which is super
Mm,
exciting.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, we're just expanding out. I've got an agency that just launched like literally like a week or a little over a week ago. And they're already at $30,000 a month recurring, which is super exciting.
Yeah, no kidding.
Um,
That's great.
and so yeah, we're just doing a lot of really cool stuff on the business front. And
Nice.
my biggest thing for 2026 is reducing the amount of required time on my calendar and increasing the amount of impact that I have. Um, so that's kind of my North Star right now. What about you, Randy?
Beautiful.
What's on your 2026 goal here?
That is so crazy. Nobody ever asked me.
Gotta put you in the
Well,
hot seat too.
I know, I know. Well, from a personal standpoint, my daughter's a senior. We're going to get her graduated, get her, set to launch into college. So that's a very big deal, right?
That's huge.
And yeah, my son is in his second year at university, so it's always fun. As a parent, you sit and you're like, you never really, I guess, obviously when the kids are, 2 or 3, you're not thinking like, oh, when they're 18, 20, life is gonna be like. But man, right now you're like, this is what we've, have done all of this work and prep for, is to launch them. And yeah, it is, it
It's like
is,
exam week for the parents, right?
oh man, it is seriously stressing. Um, but I got great kids, and so I'm pretty confident they'll do well. Um, Business side, I'll tell you, we're just having a lot of fun right now because our press release and links business was, our service is just flying because, as you had mentioned, man, there's not a more effective and efficient way to influence search and AIOs and LLMs right now than throwing out press releases. So, we're just having a lot of fun. I'm just like, yeah, I'm like on the beach soaking in the sunshine, just like, yeah, I'm loving the attention. Yeah,
What's Frankie's thing? The more beach, less laptop lifestyle.
Exactly, man. Listen, I'm so excited. I'm so thankful you jumped onto the show. Here's the SEO framework. Folks, you guys want to go jump in and see what Alex is all about, what he's doing. You can jump there. There's the URL right there, and reach out, get some good guidance. You mentioned you had a book. I was trying to find where can I find the
yeah,
here it
so
is.
we're going through a rebrand right now. So I don't
Oh,
have any of the videos created out or any of this for anything, because
yeah.
the cobblers feet are always
Oh,
the last to get
dude,
the
isn't
stuff, right?
that the truth? Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just trying to make everything, because everything was its own brand. So I'm trying to like basically tie everything back right now. But yeah, the book is available on Amazon. If you jump into the school group, it's available in PDF as well inside of the group.
Nice.
And it's just called the SEO Agency Framework.
Nice.
Or you can go ahead and search my name on Amazon and you can pick it up there. If you have any questions, jump into the group, shoot me a message, whatever. What up, Skylar?
Yeah.
Appreciate the shout out. So
yeah. Sounds good. Man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you being on the show, and it's always fun to talk with you. Hopefully,
thanks for having me.
I can't even remember the last time that we actually talked face to face, but hopefully it won't be as long. Well, maybe we'll see each other. Maybe around the horse rink. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to bring you out, put you on a bull. That'd be a lot of fun.
I'll tell you what, I do love a good rodeo, and you guys got the Cheyenne Days out there, which is a good rodeo.
Granddaddy of them all.
Man, it's been a long time since I've been out there for that. Yeah. Listen, and next week, guys, on the show, I've got Brian Cato, and who knows?
That'll be a good one.
He's coming to me. I think he's speaking at a conference in Saigon next week, and he's like, "Yeah, I can talk to you in between sessions or something before I'm speaking or something like that in Saigon." I'm like, "Wow, all right." So that'll be fun. Yeah, that'll be fun to kind of check in with him as well. So, but man, Alex, best success to you, brother, and look forward to talking with you again real soon. And again, thanks, man.
Thank you.
Everybody else, I'll see you next week, and I'll see you in the headline.